Here we are at video 6, and I want to ask you something directly. After everything that we have covered in this series, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but can I actually learn to do this? Can an ordinary person genuinely get better at understanding human behavior? Can you train yourself to spot hidden forces, recognize perception filters, and make sense of why people act the way they do? The answer is yes. Not perfectly, not overnight, but absolutely, genuinely yes. And that is exactly what this video is about. But before we go any further, let's just pause for a second and acknowledge something. Look at how far you have already come. Over the past 5 videos, you have built something real. You have discovered the hidden forces method and learned that behavior is rarely about what is happening on the surface. You shifted from asking, why did they do that, to asking, what might be causing that? And you learned about the perception filter and how people don't just react to events. They react to the meaning that they assign to those events. And you work through a step-by-step blueprint for making people make sense. And you saw that blueprint applied to a real-world situation. That's not nothing. That's actually a lot. You're already thinking about human behavior differently than you were when this series started. And here's the big discovery that ties all of that together. Human behavior is not random. I know that it can feel that way sometimes. You look at someone's reaction and think, that makes absolutely no sense. But once you start pulling back the curtain and looking at the hidden forces underneath the behavior, something shifts. Patterns begin to emerge. And when patterns emerge, people begin to make sense. That is the real breakthrough here. Not mind reading, not guesswork, but understanding. There is always a reason that people think, feel, and decide and act the way they do. And learning to identify those reasons is a skill that you can develop. Which brings us to something that stops a lot of people before they even begin. Most folks assume that being good at understanding people is something you're just born with. Either you have a natural intuition or you don't. And that's not how most skills actually work. You weren't born knowing how to read. You weren't born knowing how to drive. Skills are built, not born. And reading people works the same way. It grows through awareness, observation, practice, and experience. Nobody expects to be a great driver on day one. The same logic appears here. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is steady, consistent improvement. And that kind of improvement is absolutely possible. And here's the part that I really want you to hold on to. You don't need a psychology degree. You don't need some rare gift. And you don't need decades in a research lab. Ordinary people are developing a deeper understanding of human behavior every single day. Parents do it, teachers do it, leaders do it, great friends do it, and what you have now that most of those people didn't have when they started is a structured framework, a way of making the learning intentional instead of accidental. Be curious, be present, be patient, be consistent, stay open. Those are the building blocks, and you already have what it takes to start. Now here's something interesting that happens when you commit to understanding other people. You start understanding yourself better too, and that's one of those unexpected bonuses that nobody really warns you about. You start noticing your own filters. your own assumptions, the emotional reactions that seem to come out of nowhere, the patterns in how you respond to certain situations, and sometimes those personal discoveries turn out to be every bit as valuable as anything you learn about someone else, because self-awareness is often the very foundation of personal growth. The better you know your own thinking patterns, the more clearly you can recognize those same patterns playing out in others. You start tracing your beliefs back to where they came from. You begin spotting your own emotional triggers before they take over. You notice the habits and reactions that show up again and again, and gradually you develop a clearer picture of why you do what you do. Understanding yourself and understanding others don't happen separately. In fact, they grow together. And the reach of this skill is genuinely wide. We are not talking about one narrow area of your life. Relationships get deeper. Parenting gets more effective. Friendships feel more genuine. Leadership becomes influential. Communication gets clearer. And conflicts become more resolvable. The reason is straightforward. People are involved in virtually every part of your life, and the more accurately you can read and understand people, the more effectively you can connect with them, support them, lead them, and work alongside them. This isn't just useful, it is transformational. This whole series has really been an introduction to a larger idea. The art of reading people is not about manipulation. It's not about controlling people or fitting them into categories. It is about developing the ability to see beneath the surface of behavior, to understand the hidden forces at work, to navigate life with more wisdom, more empathy, and more genuine insight. Behavior is data. Context matters. Patterns repeat, and meaning can be found when you know what to look for. Before we wrap this up today, I want to be straightforward about something. I have tremendous faith, and that faith guides my own perception and the way that I teach this course. But it's important to understand that my goal in this series is not to hand you a belief system or push you in any particular direction. My goal is not to put people in boxes or encourage judgment. In fact, it is exactly the opposite. My goal is simply to give you better tools for understanding the people around you and the forces shaping their behavior. Because when real understanding grows, something else tends to grow alongside it. Compassion. And compassion has a way of making every relationship around you a little stronger. When you start looking beneath the behavior, you begin recognizing hidden forces. When you stop judging actions and start searching for meanings behind them, something changes. People start making sense. Not all at once, not perfectly, but gradually, increasingly, more and more over time. And once that shift happens, you genuinely cannot look at human behavior quite the same way again. So we've answered the big question today. Yes, ordinary people can absolutely learn this skill. But what if you wanted to take it further? What if you wanted a complete structured system for developing this ability step by step? That is exactly what we are going to talk about in the final video of this series, so make sure that you don't miss it.